Hi everyone, I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and this is another episode of Living Enlightened Every Day. Today we're talking about retreating from your life. What's that about? Stay tuned, find out. So today we're exploring retreating from your life. And now that sounds interesting, right?
Yes, it does.
And I'm Elizabeth Cantey. This is Troy Ismir. You might recognize him from before.
Yes, I'm back.
My significant other. And we have been on quite the journey for a few weeks now.
Yeah, we're coming up on 3 weeks. The Divine Adventure.
The Divine Adventure and the Divine Retreat.
Yes, it was a powerful experience. I'm excited to share a little bit about my takeaways and hearing from you what your takeaways are from retreating from our life.
Yeah. So we went on a 1-week advanced retreat with Joe Dispenza. And some of you who know me know that probably wouldn't have been my first choice for a retreat, but we're taking turns choosing where and how we retreat. And this was Troy's idea.
Yeah, I've been following Joe Dispenza's work for about 7 years now, and just the idea of science and quantum physics and spirituality and connecting to the invisible, his work really resonated with me, and I've wanted to go to one of his retreats for quite some time, and just this seemed like the perfect time, and I'm grateful for the experience that we had and get out of our comfort zone quite a bit and do something different, not really knowing what to expect, which is what makes it really fun and interesting, kind of going in with an open mind. And for you, not really following his work until I shared it with you a little bit, and I know it resonated with you in a different and unique way from what you're kind of used to, and I'm sure you'll share that. But just getting, if nothing else, just kind of unplugging for 7 days is really powerful. Whether you go to a formal retreat or you just go off by yourself, kind of like going dark for 7 days,
Right.
and just really shutting off from social media and the world, the visible world, and going inward to connect with the invisible world, the quantum, so to speak.
So one of the first courses that I did with Joe Dispenza, if you're going to sign up for the advanced retreat, the week-long retreat, you have to sign up for these other courses, right? Would you call them? And so there are recordings. And one of the first things he says, and one of the first ones I watched, was he talks about how science is a common language that we can now use for the spiritual. So if you're talking about Kundalini energy or chakras, or if you're talking about Sahaj Samadhi, or if you're talking about even things that Jesus would say. It's now Joe and others have kind of created this language that is non-specific to any particular religion or culture. So it really is cross-cultural.
Mhm.
There were 59 countries represented in this retreat. It was pretty amazing, and it was in Denver, so we were already planning on coming out here. So we just adjusted our time, and we're still here. You might not recognize the background. This is not my office. We're in near Denver is where we are. Yeah, this retreat was amazing. So two thumbs up.
2 thumbs up.
That's great, but there you go. I didn't realize that I had some expectations. I really thought I had no expectations. I'm pretty good at like just walking in, being present. But because I've been to a lot of retreats, I've been to Michael Beckwith, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, The Art of Living, Deepak Chopra. I've forgotten so many.
Eckhart.
Oh, I can't tell you how many Eckhart Tolle retreats. So there's sometimes the mind, but way back in the distance, has some ideas about what's going to be happening, and when we feel that sense of either disappointment or excitement, we know that the mind has created an expectation, and we might be setting ourselves up for disappointment or for like, I know what this is about. I know what this is about. And either way, sometimes I had one person walk out of one of my workshops and he said, I already know what you're going to say. I was like, wait, what? Are you sure? And then I asked him, do you know this and this and this? And he
That's
didn't
not
know.
beginner's mind, is it?
That's not
Not to
beginner's
judge him or not.
No. So, realizing that there was a little bit of how I thought it might go, and I had to keep letting that go. So that was one of the first things about retreating, is letting go what it needs to look like, what it needs to feel like, how it needs to be. And I can tell you that this was nothing like any other retreat I've been on. But as we said, we both highly recommend it as something different and very unusual. And allowing yourself, if you do choose, if there's any interest, if you've heard of Joe Dispenza and some of the other people out there that are using, I would say, a more scientific approach and a scientific language to kind of create the experience, or a transformational experience regarding spiritual being, living whole, living spiritually, integrating spirit, mind, and body. So we thought we'd give you some takeaways, some things that we really took away from this retreat, from spending time with Joe, Dr. Joe, and how it was transformational for each of us. So,
yeah,
Troy,
I'll start. So I think the first thing that really kind of struck me is this community is about 2,000 people were there, like you said, from 59 countries. And I think so often when we're on a spiritual path, we feel like we're all alone. We feel like we're isolated. And even though we're doing this work together, it's still our own individual path. And sometimes I think we both think we're kind of the only two doing this work. But when you get to be a part of a community like that, and everybody's speaking the same language, everybody's doing the work, everybody's showing up, there's power in that. There's energy, and energy is contagious, whether it's good energy or not so good energy. Like we can take that energy on, and the energy in that room was palpable. Like you could feel it as soon as you walked in. I mean, there was like yeah, just the music just resonated with my heart. And just knowing that other people are doing this work and putting in the time and the effort, and we're talking this mystic language. That was probably the one of the most powerful things. And I want to stay plugged into this community, because it's so easy to isolate ourselves and think that, yeah, we're the only ones on this narrow path. and sometimes it feels that way. And just to be plugged in and feel that energy, and I don't want to lose that. And it's easy to get caught up in that energy for 7 days, and you're fired up and you're going to take on the world. And then as soon as you get back in the real world, which isn't the real world, we fall back into our own old patterns and our old habits. And of course, we have each other to hold each other accountable. And I know you will hold me accountable to continue on this path. But that was probably the most powerful thing, is this energy of 2,000 people doing this work, showing up, supporting each other, loving each other, the connections that we made, the friendships that we made, and knowing that we're all connected. And so that was probably my one of my biggest takeaways from the 7 days.
Well, following up on that, for me, I didn't know this about Joe Dispenza, but he's very educational,
Mm,
and it's motivational. He's very motivational. Um, it's just, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very polished.
mm,
The the motivation, the energy, the music, the timing of it all, the meditations, and then it's transformational.
mm,
And to have all three from one person, I think is pretty unusual, because a lot of times you'll get two out of three. And for me, the education part never ends. Like
mm,
you guys have heard me say that, when my mind is satisfied, when my mind
mm.
can ask questions and then I have the answer, or I have an answer that really satisfies my mind goes, oh, okay.
Mhm.
And it just quiets down and
Yeah.
lets me do my thing. It lets me meditate. It lets me go into the zone, my one zone, I call it. And it's just really satisfying the mind.
Mm,
And that was really important.
mm,
And it's, as I've studied, Hinduism, Buddhism from Buddhist monks, and Christian mysticism and Kabbalah, and Sufism from a sheikh, and it's like they're all saying the same thing. They're all saying the same thing, and people like Joe, and Joe, especially since we were just there, is speaking it in such a beautiful way. It really is
mhm.
powerful, passionate, his passion,
Yeah.
and that, to me, it's a new language of using science,
Mhm.
and that language of science.
Yeah, I would agree, and same thing. Just kind of that analytical mind that I have, and but really understanding the science, and it just kind of makes sense, and you can see it. And he's got studies and data, which I love, and but to again, it's the same. It's the same message just said in a different way, and we have to find what resonates for us when we're on that spiritual path. And it was just fun to hear it in a different way. And I've read all of his books multiple times and really intrigued by his message. But to see him in person, feel his energy, and then to go really deep into this work for 7 days, like we were immersed in this work for
Yeah.
7 days. And it is motivational and inspirational, but it's really going within. And we went within a lot. And it was great. And I think another thing that came up for me is, and he really talks about being unlimited and the realization of how unlimited we can be if we allow ourselves to be. And I've lived very limited, even though I've been very successful and I've had a lot of wonderful things happen. But yet I still limit myself by the way I see myself. And that got blown wide open. And I won't go into the details because I want you to experience this for yourself. But I saw things, this power within myself, not under my own strength, but being able to do a meditation that's longer than I ever thought was possible. And if like you're meditating now for 20 minutes, maybe you can stretch that for 40 minutes. Or if you're doing 2 hours, maybe you can do 3 hours. And it's not about time, it's about quality, but just the revelations and the power when we can sit still and sit with ourselves and actually fall in love with ourselves and feel this power that we don't know is in there because we limit ourselves by what we think and what the world says and what our family says and what religion says and I just kept letting go and letting go and letting go and letting go and just pretty soon just like this experience of all this power just resonating through my body and it was amazing, and I wanna keep feeling that way. Why not?
You can
Okay.
every day.
Live enlightened every day. Wow, that should be a podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Virtual reality is here.
Um,
So, yeah, that's living enlightened every day really is for me. And I say it a lot. It's being right where you are, doing exactly what you're doing, being with whoever you are with, and seeing, sensing, feeling, and I would say knowing the good in it. We would call it God, consciousness, presence, awareness. We're aware of the connection rather than the separation.
mm,
And what I talk about, I think every week, and certainly every week that I've ever spoke, at the Center for Spiritual Living or, in my book, it's always about creating in consciousness. It's returning to source, which is we don't go source doesn't go anywhere, we do. Our attention goes out there to the world of effects and we get so caught up in the effects, we get so caught up in um the objects of our thoughts
mm,
that we forget who is the thinker, where are these thoughts arising, and in that spacious empty self, the I am presence. And Joe just has this amazing way of bringing you back to that. And it's very unique. It's like I said, I've done a lot of different retreats with a lot of different people, music retreats and centers for spiritual living retreats and others that I've mentioned, silent retreats. And this is just completely different, yet it has the same goal to return us to source, to the unlimited, infinite potential that we are already.
mm,
In other words, we don't attain it, we don't get it, we don't find it, it was never lost, but we rest in it. And from there, we can be informed
mm,
as to what we might need for healing, what we might need for career, for relationship, for anything. But it's coming from
mm,
wholeness first, from oneness first, because when we are in oneness and wholeness, there is no lack,
mm,
there is nothing missing. There is only a creative expression waiting to unfold the highest good for everyone in that moment or in that situation or circumstance. So we retreat from the situations, the circumstances, the events in our lives to return to source. And to do that for 7 days is, and I remember Sri Sri Ravi Shankar used to say, you need to take 2 weeks for yourself every year, like not a vacation,
yeah.
a retreat, like retreat from your other self.
Yeah, I think we get so caught up in our day-to-day lives, and there's things to do, places to go, people to see, and pretty soon we're just kind of running on these habitual patterns. And when we can retreat from our life and step back and really take a look at that, like what are we doing just out of habit? And are we connecting to source? And it's a beautiful gift that we gave ourselves to be able to do that. And, one of our visions is to be able to retreat whenever
Yeah.
we want to and to connect to source. And that was probably the biggest thing that came out of this is just less of me trying to control things, make things happen, force things to really step into that connection to source. And once I do that, I don't have to make things happen. I can just trust that source knows what I need and I can just allow it to happen. And I've never really done that in my life. And that message just came through not only in Dr. Joe's retreat, but I just keep getting that message from you, from every book that I read. And we so often think we have to go and make things happen. We have to work hard and bust our butts and enforce things. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. And it's really about just opening up and allowing and being receptive to this divine intelligence to work through me. And my only job is to connect to source and get out of my own way, which I've done that a lot. And that's why that letting go and the image of the prodigal son just kept coming up in the retreat and just returning home to source. And, sometimes there was tears that were just streaming down my face, sometimes from sadness and sometimes from joy. And it just that letting go process. And I think it takes a few days to kind of allow that to happen. And that's why I love that 7 days. I've done a couple, 3 days where I disconnected, but the first day or two is about letting go. And then when we let go, we can allow the downloads to come in. So I think in the beginning it was tears of kind of letting go from kind of some sadness. And then like the last 5 days, it was just like, wow, tears of joy, like letting like the truth of who I am kind of shine through. And yeah, I love the 7 days. I mean, I
Yeah,
could have stayed longer, to be honest with you.
absolutely.
And then again, there's time to be back in the world, just being the light, sharing love. And that was another thing that came through was just we heal through love. We love, heal ourselves through love and heal others through love. And that's just a powerful way to be.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because one of my things, which I mentioned a few times, I was pretty surprised that he does these healings within the retreat. And he's worked with people that, like Andrew Newberg, and who's done peer-reviewed studies on meditation, the effects of meditation, the effects of mindfulness, and they're working with other scientists, and I forgot their name.
I
So,
don't
uh,
remember.
but they're really working on how these deep focused meditations, returning to source, returning to, as Dr. Joe would say, the quantum field, or the field of infinite creativity, all these words that we use, and to allow ourselves to be there and that, and how that heals, or why that heals, when that heals. And there is a lot of research on that. You can go to PubMed .gov, and which is what I did. You can find Deepak Chopra's done studies with a lot of other people, and this is happening in Joe Dispenza's organization as well. And it's just amazing. They have higher rate of healing than the placebo effect. No, than any drug.
Drug,
Than any
yeah,
drug.
actual drug.
Yeah, so it's pretty amazing. And then of course it isn't any particular dis-ease. It's people from all walks of life with all different issues and problems. And it made me really remember the things that I used to read at the about the Centers for Spiritual Living, and the time at the turn of the last century
Mm.
when new thought was really emerging. There was so much healing, it was so powerful. Emerson moved from New England area to Florida to cure his tuberculosis, and did, after watching his wife and several family members, many family members die of tuberculosis and things like that. And there's just so many um, recorded healings. And it was I forgot his first name, but Mesmer,
Right.
who really discovered this mind body connection, that if the mind really believes in healing and really can sink back into that subconscious and that presence, then anything is possible. Any kind of healing is possible. And so Joe Dispenza really has a unique formula to get people into that place. And his healing rate right now, he said, was 38%. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to participate in that, and then to have some of our own healing happen at this retreat. And just to know that it's because we keep returning to source, to infinite possibilities, to unlimited creativity, unbounded joy, the peace that passes all understanding. When we rest in that, there is no problem. There might be a project. That's what I call it. There might be a project. There might be something to do. There might be some path that we're guided to follow. I don't know why this just sprang into my mind, but we're vegan. And so we had the best food ever.
Side note, right?
Side note.
Yeah.
That might be one of the best experiences is
not having to cook it too.
Yeah, it's even better.
That's
Or
nice.
clean. So
Or clean.
there you go.
Yeah.
But I talked to just randomly, we were talking to one of the staff there, and he said that Dr. Joe has a very different view on food. And so the food was very clean, delicious, but very clean. So we could eat quite a bit of it, a lot of food. I mean, a little too much food, but it was all for us. It was vegan, and other people had the things that they needed as well. But you realize that it shows up when you need it, that the path that you can take for healing comes out of the silence, comes out of the stillness, it comes, and Joe would say, you're changed because you see a new direction. You see something, some other way that you can do things that you could not have perceived before, because before you were in the box of your past, of what we've already experienced, of what we've already known. That's all our past. And if we keep thinking the same thought, doing the same thing, and expecting a different result, well, that would make us a little crazy. But we change by simply resting in wholeness and oneness, and allowing the past to dissolve and to what does he say? He says it becomes wisdom, instead of those memories that we have that might be painful, hurtful, even traumatic. When we see them in that place of wholeness and love, he has a scientific way of explaining it, but we detach from them, and it becomes wisdom. So it still happened, but the emotional reaction that keeps us in this moment of fear, of trauma, of pain, of betrayal, all those things, it's because we're thinking about that thing, and it's wreaking havoc on our system now, as if it were happening now. But in love, we dissolve some of those things, and we can dissolve all of those things. And it doesn't mean it never happened. It means that its effect on us has shifted. We have moved into a place where it is wisdom, and it is we can flow in another direction, guided by the wisdom that event created in our lives. And there's a blessing, right? There's forgiveness and blessings and all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's just letting go of these past experiences without regret. And I think it says without an emotional charge of past experiences, it just becomes wisdom. So we gain a lot of insight from the things that we've been through. But when we hold on to the trauma in our body, it doesn't serve us any longer. So when we can let go of that, our body changes. We become happier. They measure like levels in the body. And one thing that they do a lot of is they do a lot of just testing. So they do blood markers and biometrics and see how when we let go of that stuff, like, and we open up our heart, like the oxytocin, the love drug, can be up like 200 times of normal level, or the immunoglobulin A, which is an immune marker, goes through the roof. Uh, and we can have so much impact on our body by releasing these negative thoughts and emotions that we hold on to. And once we let go, we allow our body to do what it's meant to do and keep us healthy and well and full of love and joy. But and we can do that through the meditation and sitting still, and then getting up and continuing to feel that way throughout the day. And we did some walking meditations, which was really powerful. Again, I won't go into a lot of detail, but it's retreating from our life, but then practicing how can we be back in our life, but maintaining that same state of being of love and joy, not being pulled in different directions. Because when we go into the same environment and see the same people, what needs to change is me, not them. It's me, and having more compassion for myself and others. And that's really what the work was about for the last 7 days.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I think for me that keeps coming up for me now, the people that I meet, the people who've written books, the people who are coming into my life in this way, going to a Joe Dispenza retreat, which I never would have guessed, but it is always constantly reminding me that it's never trying to fix something out there
Mm,
in what I would call the world of effects,
mm,
because we are cause. We are cause. When we return to cause, when we return to source, wholeness, oneness, then we create a new effect, a new way, a change. But if we spend our time and energy, and Joe describes this in such a wonderful way, and I won't say it because hopefully you'll go explore it for yourself. But what I say is we spend time putting out all these fires. We go from health to wealth to family and relationships to partnerships to all of those things. We're putting out fires. We're running around, putting our energy in the effect when we're creators, and we return to first cause. We return to self with a capital S, to create. And when we forget that, we get lost.
mm,
But when we remember that, you described, that feeling of empowerment, that
mm.
feeling of creativity, that feeling of love, that feeling of compassion for everything that we've created in the past that may have been limiting or in lack. We just have compassion for it now. And so everything in my life is pointing to turning within and knowing the truth of my being before I even, breathe.
Yes, the kingdom of heaven is within.
Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all else is added. And so, we'll talk about this next time, but for me, a lot, because I grew up Catholic and went to Catholic grade school and high school, and Troy's father was a Lutheran pastor,
Hmm.
right? So
Yes.
growing up with a lot of Christian um, Bible verses and talks, uh, there was a lot of things that did not make sense to a young mind. And now what happens is they come back after some of these meditations or after some experiences, and there's such a deep understanding, and those are all pointing me towards, turning within, seek first the kingdom of heaven. So I don't know, anything else? We're going to
No,
talk about it again
yeah.
because there's so much, but
I would just say give yourself the gift of going on a retreat. Whatever that is for you, it is a gift to yourself. Retreat from your life. I would say minimum of 3 days, but the longer the better. And it's It's a gift not only you give to yourself, but when you go back to your family and community, you will be a changed person. And that's what it's all about, is change and transformation. But if we keep doing the same things day after day, there's not going to be any change. So take the time, retreat from your life, and see what happens.
Yeah, not waiting for anything out there to
Mm,
change, because it will change out there, but it probably isn't going to change the way you want it to, because everybody else is doing their thing.
mm,
The only thing that really changes in our lives is that the creator of change is us.
mm.
It's who we are. And so, yeah, give yourself time to retreat. And a retreat, again, I'm just going to say it, isn't a vacation. It just isn't. On vacation, you want to, I don't know, go snorkeling in the Aegean. I have no idea what you want to do. Go snow skiing or something. But that's a vacation, and we all need that too. We all need that too. But a retreating from the life that we know and turning within and finding these wonderful guides out there in the world. And we've mentioned a few, but we're giving Joe Dispenza, I don't know, we're going to give him quadruple thumbs up.
Way to go, Joe.
Way to go, Joe.
You were inspirational, and feeling his energy and his passion. Again, it shows me what's possible, what I can do. And there's only one Dr. Joe Dispenza, and there's only one Troy Ismir, and there's only one Elizabeth Cantey, and we're all called to do our own thing in our own way. And I'm just being open to what that is, and in my own way, and being true to my own soul, and trusting that the doors will open, and I'm just open to receive. And just it's just fun to share this, and share it with you, and share it with the listeners. And again, the message is to retreat from your life, not to escape our lives, actually to fully step into our lives. And there's a big difference, and I think that's really important to understand that.
And would you mind sharing your book?
Sure. Yeah. So this was just released not too long ago. This is something I've worked on for quite a while. It's called True Power's Inner Power, 99 Poems to Inspire Greatness Within. And just writing what was on my heart every morning after a meditation. And I'm just excited to share it with other folks, and kind of sharing my story of what it means to move towards living enlightened every day.
Mm-hmm. Well, mine is Living Enlightened, the joy of integrating spirit, mind, and body. They're both available on Amazon, and we'll put them in the show notes. Thank you for listening. And if you liked this, please hit like and hit subscribe, and share it with a friend. They might need to know how to retreat from their life, or some more information on someone who uses a different language that isn't triggering culture, religion, or any of those other things. So that's very, very unique and powerful in the world right now as we know it. So we recommend Joe Dispenza's Advanced Week-Long Retreat, for sure. I'm Elizabeth Cantey. You can learn more on my website, elizabethcantey.com. You can find out more about Troy on his website, troyismir.com, ISMIR. That will be in the show notes. And we are just so grateful and thankful for you guys. And leave us a message, a note, a couple of thoughts, a question. We'll get back to you. Remember to laugh, love, and live enlightened every day.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next Tuesday at 7 a.m. Mountain Time for Living Enlightened with Elizabeth Cantey. Integrating your spirit, mind, and body. Learn more at www.ntmedia.org.